Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Great to have you here today on this Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday, where the topic of the day is, should you only eat one meal a day? This diet has actually been around for a long time. It's often been referred to as the 23-1 diet, the 24 diet, or the warrior diet. And I'm going to go through all of the different aspects of it. Believe me, it's actually more interesting than you may think. And I'm going to give you some of the ideas behind it, the pros around it, but ultimately why this diet is going to be something that you're going to want to watch out for. But again, you want to always know the reason as to why it's not the best diet for you. So I'm going to give you all the different details around that. But I also want to just state this, that there is a book called The Warrior Diet, and I am not in any way, shape, or form saying anything negative about the author of that book or the writing in that book. There are actually some great points in the book. However, what I am going to talk about is just the idea of only eating one meal per day. That's what I'm talking about, okay? So no disrespect to the author of that book, which I believe very, very intelligent person. And what we're really talking about is this, is we are talking about the idea that in a Western-based society, that doing more of something that's good, intermittent fasting, which we've talked about before. I'm going to give you some updated shows on that as well. Doing more of something that's good makes it even better. And I'm going to share with you by the end of this show why that may not be the case. So first off, I want to share with you this. Why do proponents of the one meal a day diet, the warrior diet, the 24 diet, or the 23-1 diets like it so much? Well, they say this, that our ancestors were mainly nocturnal eaters. What does that mean? Well, it means they hunted all day and they would have got some type of food, maybe gathered all day, got some type of food, and then they would bring it back and they would have one meal at night. So let's explore that just for a moment, because there's actually some truth to that, right? So a lot of times in different tribes, it'd be broken up in different ways. Some people would go out and hunt animals, whatever they could catch. And then some people would gather berries or tubers or nuts or seeds or whatever they could get, right? Fruit, etc. So that's great. And of course, everything was in season, right? Because that's how they were eating. And that at the end of the day, yes, people would commune and bring the food back. But we make the mistake of thinking that that meal would be at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, or 8 o'clock at night, which is not the case. Because if you think about it, and there is no electricity, and we're going back, if we want, we can go back millions of years, and there's no light, there's not even any fire. Well, what are we doing to be able to eat that food in the dark? Very, very challenging, and again, completely unnecessary. So if we're talking about, yes, would they eat one meal per day, and I'll go back to that in just a moment, that could likely be the case. There could be one larger meal of the day. However, when the food was caught, it would have been brought back. If it was mid-morning, they would have brought it back. And more than likely, it would have been right around like a late lunch or mid-afternoon, later afternoon meal at the latest. We're not talking about 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And we're saying like people are going to bed with the dark, right? Because they're not nocturnal. By the way, humans are not nocturnal. This just in. We do not have night vision, and we're very easy prey in the wild to any animal, such as a big cat, that does have nocturnal vision, right? So humans would tuck themselves away so they don't become prey at night. So let's say they went to bed at 8 o'clock or so, and then they would rise, of course, with the sun, with the light, and that might be 5 o'clock, it might be 6 o'clock, depends on the season as well. So they would be getting their sleep. Sometimes there were things done in the middle of the night. That's a topic for a different show on what they often called the waking or the waking hours, but that's neither here nor there. So when we look at this, we're saying, okay, well, they still ate then 4 hours or so before they even went to bed. Now, keep that in mind, by the way, for the end of the show, because I'm going to bring that full circle. So we know that humans certainly were not eating in the dark. I mean, yes, it happened, but that's very unlikely for the simple fact that it's not pragmatic, that it's not actually that doable, and they would have caught the food well before dark. Now, the second part is this, is that humans on those hunts would have also encountered most likely some type of food that they could be eating during the day. And that could be things that also could be, let's call it harvested, but let's call it harvested in air quotes, nuts and seeds that aren't going to go bad, some fruit that's not going to go bad for a little while. They would be able to eat some fruit, berries, nuts, seeds during the day before any animal products were caught. Even tubers that would be able to be eaten raw. So those things could all be eaten, and that would sustain them during a hunt to try to get a larger amount of protein and nutrition for their body. So I just, again, like there's a lot of sometimes there's glamorization of these diets that simply isn't true, that it's a little bit of a fantasy to say like, oh, people live that way. And also their lives are extremely hard. They would have been very difficult every single day having to go out there and get food. Okay, so that's that. And they're saying that, well, because we live for so many years like this, that's natural for our body. Well, I can tell you that's nothing like that couldn't be further from the truth, because we know by the time evening comes around, our digestion actually becomes a little weaker. We know that. It becomes not as strong. Our digestion is actually most robust during like the 11 to 1 hour. That's certainly when our digestion is most robust. So let's look and let's break this down just a little bit more. So if anyone's never heard of a 24 diet, that means people are essentially fasting for 20 hours a day, eating nothing except maybe drinking water. And then for 4 hours, they're eating. Now, again, this doesn't even fall into the 1 meal a day category, because are you really eating over 4 hours? That's not really a meal. They could be considered maybe 2 meals in there. But a lot of people, again, the 1 meal a day, which means that for 23 hours, you're not eating anything. You're just drinking your fluids. And then you sit down, let's say 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, and you're having your big dinner for the day. Excuse me. So what are you doing? Well, you're consuming then your 1,500 calories a day, your 2,000 calories a day, your 3,000 calories a day, and you're getting all of your food at one sitting, one meal. Now, a lot of people like this because they say, well, I get so much more done during the day. I'm so much more productive. And, I have digestive issues when I eat throughout the day. So I just like to do it once at night. And now I have less joint pain. I feel this, I feel that. So there are a lot of proponents of it. And I get it. I understand. When you're not putting food into your body, you're certainly not using any energy for digestion. Now, you're not getting any energy, that's for sure. But you're not using any for digestion. And also, if your digestive system's imbalanced, well, you're not exacerbating those imbalances. But again, those are underlying causes of why you feel that way in the first place. Okay, so here's the problem though with following this 1 meal a day diet is that, well, let me share with you this as well, because there's one more point that a lot of the 1 meal a day people like to give you, and that's that you can vary these meals based on your activity levels. So it's called up-down dieting sometimes. There's different parts to this. So on the exercise days, they're saying that you're going to eat more carbs, and that's actually going to be part of your 1 meal. And then on your resting days, when you're not working out, you're going to eat more fat because your fat should be intake higher should be on that. I just wanted to bring this up just as an aside. All of this is absolutely not science-based at the deepest level. So you can cherry pick, again, always the science, but you have to understand is that your body always needs protein, it always needs carbs, and it always needs fats, okay? And for people saying, well, my body runs fine on ketones versus carbs, you have to understand every time you push yourself to a point where blood sugar begins to dip because of some type of anaerobic-based capacity or call for your body's gonna break something down in order to make those glucose molecules. It just is. That's how the body works, okay? If you stay at a light load, if you stay at more of an aerobic load, you'll be able to use more ketones. There's just no doubt about it. So, but again, that's a separate conversation. But your body needs protein every day in order to be able to rebuild and repair all the damaged tissue. Your body needs glucose every day because when you start to run low, well, your body's just going to break down liver glycogen from your liver stores as well as your muscles, okay? We don't need to overdo that, of course. And then your body needs fats on a daily basis as well, especially for your organs and your eyes and everything else. So there's a little bit of a fallacy there. Your body needs a balanced diet every day, not necessarily just, one food group one day and another day. That's really bad advice for people as well. Okay. So here's the problem, though, with just doing 1 meal a day. The first one is this thing. This is a big one. is I want you to go back and we're going to link it up here today. So if you go to stephencabral.com/1895 is today's show. It's on Hermetic Stressors. Okay. I really want you to understand and know what Hermetic Stresses are, because Hermetic Stressors are what creates a stronger body, but when overdone, create a lot of oxidative stress. Okay, so if you listen to yesterday's show, that oxidative stress can lead to a leaky brain, a leaky gut, and rapid aging of the body. So we don't want that, right? So oxidative stress breaks the body down at a much faster rate from these hermetic-based stressors. Not eating all day, and if you're not meditating, but you're actually an active human requiring nutrition and you don't give your body nutrition, that's a hermetic stressor, which then leads to, over time, not one day, but over time, many days in a row, it leads to a greater catabolic effect. What does that mean? Well, it means that your body begins to break itself down at a greater degree. Muscle tissue, your eyes, what can it look like? Poor vision. It can look like floaters in your eyes. It can look like memory issues. It can look like thinning skin, thinning hair, lower libido, lower drive, lower ambition, poor sleep, poor circadian rhythm, meaning not enough energy in the morning, not being able to fall asleep at night, can lead to a host of issues. So I have a whole show on catabolism as well, and we're going to link that up today as well on 1895. I would love you to listen to both of those, okay? Really, really important, because there's too many people that are more of the ectomorph or vata body type, or even pitta vata, that are following the one meal a day or overdoing their fasting, and it's leading to rapid aging and a lot of low metabolism, muscle loss as well. Okay, the next one, so we've got two down. Why one meal a day is not a great idea. Massive hermetic stressor eventually leads to catabolic nature in the body. So unless you're not 20-something years old, it's going to lead to much more catabolic nature. The third one is blood sugar dysregulation. Okay, now in the beginning, yes, your blood sugar will absolutely come down if you only eat one meal a day. However, it will eventually, that's why what's good in the short term is not always what's good in the long term. Eventually, it will lead to highs and lows in blood sugar. You eat that big meal. By the way, if you eat 1,500, 2,000 calories at a meal, no matter who you are, most likely you're going to get a big blood sugar spike. Even if the food is low, let's say it's only fat and protein, you're still going to get a spike, because there's something beyond the glycemic index that's called the glycemic load of a meal. And when the glycemic load of a meal is high, like a big steak or 50 grams of whey protein, it's going to break down towards, well, it's going to cause a higher spike in blood sugar. So just keep that in mind. And then you can wake up in the morning with lower levels of glucose. So let's say you drop low glucose at 10 a.m., 11 a.m. What happens is now your body produces more stress hormones, making you more, what? Catabolic, and also breaking down liver glycogen or breaking down your own muscle tissue in order to get glucose to raise your blood sugar, because ketones are not going to raise your blood sugar, okay? Blood sugar is going to raise your blood sugar. So your body has mechanisms in order to stay alive. It does this whether you want it to or not. So again, you might as well work with your body. All right, looks like the fourth one is nutrient deficiencies. Yes, it is so difficult, so challenging to get all of your nutrients in that you need your micronutrients, which are your fatty acids, your vitamins, your minerals, all of your different flavonols, all your different colorful veggies and fruit at one meal. That's it. You have one meal to get 7 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables in. That's nearly impossible. You can get all your protein in and all your fat. That's no problem at all. But most humans can't digest 7 to 9 cups of fruits and vegetables at a meal. That's a lot. So if you wanted to do this, well, at the very least, you would most likely have to juice yourself your vegetables, like juice some green veggies, and you'd have to eat your fruit maybe a half hour to an hour before your meal. So it's kind of a long meal, but that would be the best way to do it. If you just have your heart set on one meal a day, you maybe eat a couple berries or so an hour before the meal, and then you would do a green juice along with your meal with some more regular vegetables to be able to get your 7 to 9 servings in, plus your protein and fat. But no matter what, I still don't recommend it, and here's why. It's massively taxing on your digestive system to eat that large a meal. Taking all of your food in at one time is going to stress your body's digestion. It's going to take way more energy than is necessary, and It's going to require greater amounts of hydrochloric acid in your stomach, greater amounts of digestive enzymes, pancreatic enzymes, bile, and then all that food has to move into your intestines, probably leading to some fermentation and potentially bacterial buildup. So not a great idea. Okay, so we went over that one. The next one is this. It affects your sleep. Okay, eating food within an hour or two before bed affects your sleep. Okay. You can test this. Again, you never have to take my word on it. You can simply get yourself any type of sleep monitor and have dinners for a week. Have them all at 3 to 4 hours before bed. Okay. Have them all, let's say at 6 o'clock, you go to bed at 10. All right. You have all your dinners 4 hours before bed. Check your heart rate variability. Check your deep sleep amount. Check your REM sleep amount. I have all podcasts on how much you should be getting for REM and deep sleep. Check that out. We'll link those up today at 1895 as well. So check your HRV, check your REM, check your deep sleep. Don't even worry about the other. I mean, heart rate would be great as well, but don't worry about that. So I think you'll find you won't get your 1.5 hours of deep. You won't get your 2+ hours of REM, and your HRV will be probably 10 points lower. I mean, it's a significant factor on your sleep when you eat that close to bed. Why? Well, your body is now shifting its functions towards digestion, especially when a meal that large is going to take 4 or 5 hours minimum to be digested out of your stomach. So really, really not a great idea. So if you're going to do 1 meal a day, make it 4 or 5 hours before bed. Okay. But again, all of this is testable. And so those are the main reasons why. And I would always say to you this is really important, that anybody can find a study or 2 or 3 or even maybe even a dozen. But you have to understand that a lot of people like to look at short-term success, and they forget about all of the long-term issues that this can cause. So in summary, I always like to give you what would be better. Well, what would be better is there is validity to doing longer fasts. And so I'm going to link that up. I'm going to link up my entire intermittent fasting category. We have so many shows now, over 30 shows just on intermittent fasting, all of the science behind it, who should skip breakfast, who shouldn't. I give you my fasting protocols 1 day a week for 24 hours or maybe 36, not every day, right? 1 day a week. I go over the quarterly fast, 2 to 3 days of liquid fasting, and maybe a longer for the year. So I go over all of those on my intermittent fasting podcast. So we'll definitely link that up at stephencabral.com/1895. And you have to understand is that I'm a huge advocate of that once a week fast. I'm a huge advocate of intermittent fasting. But what I'm not a fan of is creating long-term imbalances for short-term wins. So if you feel better with doing a longer fast every day of the week, always ask yourself, why? Why do you feel better? Well, I don't have any joint pain. Okay, well, let's look at intestinal permeability. I don't have digestive issues and bloating. Okay, let's look at digestion and weakened digestion and food sensitivities and those types of things. So I just urge you to say to yourself, ask why. Don't follow a one-day diet because you have to, because of issues going on with your body. That's not the reason to do it. Your reason for there is like, okay, let me look then in my labs if something's going on. But actually what I want you to do is this. Always ask why. You can run labs. All of the labs you can run right at home for your digestion. That's at equa.life/labs. Or continue to ask yourself why. Why do I do this? Just because it's a fad doesn't mean that you should be doing it. Just because a lot of other people are doing it doesn't mean you should be doing it. You want to ask yourself is, okay, is this something I could see myself doing forever? Is it something that might be good in the short term, a day a week or so? Or is it something that could cause harm then in the long term? So these are all questions I'd just like you to ask yourself. Maybe you come up with a yes, maybe you come up with a no, maybe you come up with a maybe, but self-exploration is always a great thing. So hopefully this podcast was helpful. If it was, always do feel free to share it with anyone that it could serve. And for all of the show notes today, including the 3 big takeaways, head on over to stephencabral.com/1895. All the resources will be there. The additional podcasts will be there. And the 2 or 3 big takeaways, as I said before. So again, all of that's at stephencabral.com/1895. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Cabral concept. Have an amazing day.